Hi everyone, welcome to the third and final instalment of the Ceiling Speakers playlist. This series is designed to tackle all of the most common questions you have about installing ceiling speakers and choosing the right speakers for you. If you haven't heard of us before, my name's Jonathan from Smart Home Sounds and we're a home audio retailer dedicated to finding the right speakers for you. Episode 3 is a very important one because I'm going to be covering all of the do's and don'ts when it comes to installing ceiling speakers, as well as the most common mistakes that we see. And if you stick around until the end of the video, I'll tell you the number one most common mistake we see when it comes to installing speakers, so you're not going to want to miss that. There will be quite a lot of information to digest in this video, so if you're not sure of anything or have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us directly. And we'll be happy to help you. We also have created our very own free ebook, which is designed to go over everything that you need to know about ceiling speakers. If you are interested in getting your hands on the ebook, simply just send us an email and we'll be happy to send it over to you. The first tip I have for you is actually a product recommendation if you're looking for the simplest installation possible. And that is the Bowers & Wilkins CCM 600 range. It was actually reserved exclusively for installers, but now it's actually available to everyone. And thanks to its quick dog system, it's so simple to install. Now, as you can see, the ceiling speaker is sold in two parts. You've got the cage and the ceiling speaker. So actually, with the difference with this speaker is that you wire the speaker cable into this cage directly, and then you slide the ceiling speaker into the cage, undo these dog legs, and then it sits in the plasterboard in your ceiling. So once you've slotted the ceiling speaker into the cage, it's simply a case of screwing in these 3 screws, pushing them down, and then it's sat in the ceiling. Now, the beauty of this ceiling speaker is that first of all, it's got a nice pivotable tweeter so you can direct the sound to wherever you want it to go. And secondly, because the cage is a separate part to the ceiling speaker, it means if you ever wanted to upgrade your ceiling speakers in the future, you could take out the ceiling speaker and then upgrade your ceiling speaker and slot it into the same cage, because this cage is actually universal to the CCM 600 range. This is what makes the Bowers & Wilkins CCM 600 range so unique, and it's also why it gets my recommendation if you're looking for the simplest installation possible. Tip 2 is all about checking the amount of space you have in your ceiling void. Now, quite often we see a lot of cases where ceiling speakers have needed to be exchanged because they are too deep for the ceiling void. Now, the average amount of depth you'll need is around 100 millimeters, but you can get ceiling speakers which are more or less than this. And if you do need to check this, then the mounting depths are on our website, so you can be sure they're going to fit before you purchase them. Tip 3 is overcoming a common mistake that we see, and that is when a pair of mono ceiling speakers have been installed on the same amplifier, but then installed in 2 different rooms. So you've got a left channel in one room and a right channel in another room. Now, what I would recommend is you always purchase ceiling speakers in pairs and then installed in the same room. If you don't have space to install a pair of ceiling speakers, then you definitely need to go for a single stereo ceiling speaker, which is still going to output a left and a right channel to one speaker. Number 4 is a general tip about ensuring that your budget is matched with the sort of sound quality you're looking to get out of your ceiling speakers. Now, obviously, once you've installed the ceiling speakers, there's no going back, and it's very hard to uninstall a ceiling speaker. So it's very important that you get your budget right. Now, I have given a general rule of thumb in our previous video, and I've sort of set it around the £200 a pair mark if you're looking for ambient background listening and nothing more. If you're looking at the other end of the scale, if you're looking to listen at louder volumes or throw parties or host guests for, then you're going to need to set your budget at around the £500 to £600 a pair mark. Now, anything in between that is going to sort of be good for ambient background listening with the occasional higher volume listening. But of course, it's important to stretch your budget as much as you possibly can, because that's always going to get you better quality materials, and ultimately your ceiling speakers are going to sound a lot better. Number 5 is all about finding the optimum space between your ceiling speakers. Now, you're going to want to position them around 2 to 4 meters apart for the best stereo separation effect. If you position them more than 5 meters away from each other, you do start to risk the channels sounding disconnected from each other, and it won't sound very good. At the same time, you're going to want to position them at least 2 meters away from each other so that you're getting a good stereo separation effect, and anything less than this, you might as well start considering a single stereo ceiling speaker, which has a left and a right channel built into one speaker. Number 6 is some general guidance about using ceiling speakers with your TV. Now, if you are looking to use the Sonos amp to power your ceiling speakers with TV audio, the great thing about the amp is that it has an HDMI ARC input, which will connect directly to the TV and ultimately let you play your TV audio out of the ceiling speakers. In this setup, it will create a phantom center channel as well, so it won't sound like it's coming too much from the left or too much from the right, for example. You can also add a second amp which will power your rear ceiling speakers, which will act as surrounds, and also add a sub to that to create 4.1 Dolby Digital. However, the most common setup that we see utilising ceiling speakers for TV audio is to have a Sonos soundbar at the front, maybe a Sonos Beam or a Sonos Playbar, followed by an amp to power a rear set of ceiling speakers for your surrounds. Now this would create 5.0 Dolby Digital, and then of course you've always got the ability to add a Sonos sub to that wirelessly. Number 7 is all about choosing the right speaker cable to use with your ceiling speakers. Now, some companies might suggest going for top-notch speaker cable, claiming that it's going to give you better sound quality from your ceiling speakers. Now, this is a grey area, and while this may be true in some cases, in most cases it is a bit of a waste of money. What we would suggest is going for the industry standard, which is 16 gauge 2-core speaker cable. We do sell this on our website in reels of 50 metres for £47.50. Now, this is a absolutely fine cable if you've got no cables that are going to be more than 35 meters in length between the amp and a ceiling speaker. If you've got any cable runs that are going to be longer than 35 meters, then you're going to want to upgrade to 14 gauge to avoid any signal degradations along the way. So the next tip is going to be all about fire hoods, and what are they and do you need them for your ceiling speaker install? So what they do is encase the back of your ceiling speaker with a fire retardant material, and that's going to protect you in the event of a fire because it will stop the spread of fire within your ceiling void. These are actually universal, so it will fit both 6.5 inch and larger size 8-inch ceiling speakers, no problem. The fire regulations are that if you've got a habitable room above where you're installing ceiling speakers, you will need to install these as a legal requirement. The secondary benefit of the fire hoods is that they stop a certain amount of sound from leaking above. So great if you've got a habitable room above, it's going to keep your neighbours happy or whoever's sleeping above happy. Now these start from £42.99 on our website. The next thing I'd like to talk about is ensuring that you've got the correct number of amps for your project. Now we've got a Sonos amp here as an example, and this can power up to 4 ceiling speakers at 8 ohms or 6 ceiling speakers if you're using Sonos's own in-ceiling speakers. Now it's important to know that every ceiling speaker connected to the same Sonos amp will play the same music at the same volume. So if you're looking for the ability to play different music in different rooms, then you're going to need to have a different amp for each room. However, if you want the ability to turn off one zone while leaving another zone playing, for example, you might have a kitchen in an outdoor space and you want to just have the kitchen on when everyone is inside, then I'd recommend a speaker switch from the brand QED. Now we actually sell these speaker switches on our website for £69 for a 2-way switch, so if you're using 2 pairs of ceiling speakers, or if you're using 3 pairs of ceiling speakers, you can get a 3-way switch at £75. So congratulations on making it this far in the video. I did mention at the start of the video that I would be covering the number one mistake that we see when installing ceiling speakers, and that is if you've got any rooms that are using one ceiling speaker in, you will need to go for a single stereo ceiling speaker. And we have an example of one here, and this is the Monitor Audio C165T2. The number one mistake that we see with this is when there's only been one cable wired to a single stereo ceiling speaker. And in that scenario, that would only give you half the audio. What you need to do is wire two speaker cables to it. As you can see, it's got 2 tweeters, one for your left and one for your right. Now the only workaround, if you don't want to use 2 speaker cables, is to go for a 4-core speaker cable. And in that scenario, you can split the cores and then they can go to the left and the right. But for the majority of you that are using 2-core speaker cable, you will need 2 runs of speaker cable to the single stereo speaker. So that's the end of this video, and unfortunately the end of the ceiling speaker series, so hopefully it did help you. If you do have any further questions, then feel free to let us know in the comments or reach out to us directly. Remember that we do have an ebook which you might find useful, and if you are ready to get started with your ceiling speaker project, do send us your floor plans and we'd be happy to help with the positioning, how many ceiling speakers that you'd need, and give an indication of cost. Thanks for watching and see you next time.